My name is Ray Catania. I have to say that my childhood was not a particularly happy one. And it had a lot of trauma. And in my home, a lot of fighting and just things that I did not want to be subject to if I could avoid it. So the NDE, when it did occur, I was 20 years old and I was living in my home still with my parents. And my bedroom was located on the second floor, which was above the kitchen. And obviously in the kitchen, we had a stove. The stove was run by gas. And what had happened was, the way I understand it, is that there was a gas leak from the stove. And this gas was leaking and rising from the kitchen into my bedroom. So while I was sleeping all night long, I was breathing in this gas. So I tried to get myself out of bed. And what I noticed was I could not move a good portion of my body. In other words, my legs were so heavy that I couldn't move them. And my head was so heavy, I couldn't get it off the pillow. By the second or third time, I know if I don't get out of this bed that I'm going to die. I know something is very seriously wrong with me. I just don't know what it is yet. And I managed to pull myself to the very edge of the bed, and I tumble out of the bed, and I hit the floor, and I hit it face first. Now, here's what's very, very interesting about this. The second I hit the floor, I knew I hit it, but I felt no pain at all. And I thought this was strange, but the reason is because that body was dead. And I was no longer in that body, but I was floating above it. And I was in a neutral corner of the room looking down on my lifeless body. This didn't frighten me right away. In fact, it didn't frighten me at all. It felt euphoric. It felt like relief. It felt amazing, actually. The colors were more vivid. Everything I was seeing was just more vibrant and alive, even though I'm looking at my dead body. And there is a light that comes from the adjacent corner of the room. And this is a huge white cone-shaped light, like a spotlight, that is shining only on me, not my dead body, my living energy that's floating above it. And as I proceed to go into the light, I'm apprehensive, and there's a being at the end of the light. Can't tell you who it is. I don't know. Male or female, I don't know. But the being says, "It's okay, Ray. You can come into the light. It's okay." And so I felt comfortable, and I proceeded to go in further into the light. And the further I got, the more the euphoria increased. And the feelings, I just wish there was a word that could summarize it, but euphoric is the best word I can possibly think of. It was the most amazing feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. So needless to say, I wanted to continue into the light to the other side. But in that moment, I was looking down at myself, and my father had come running into the room. And this is when he finds me, and he scoops me up, and he's distraught. He's crying, and he's holding me, and he's screaming for the paramedics to come. And, you know, he and I really didn't have a great relationship, to say the least. In fact, I don't even remember how many times he hugged me, but maybe less than 5, and one of them was when I was dead. So I wanted that. I wanted that relationship with my father. I wanted it to be that way. So I thought if I went back that it would be. And I kind of started to ask the being if I could go back. And I was asking by saying, I can't leave him that way. It was almost like I was negotiating to go back. And the next thing I know, when I wake up, I am back in my body. I'm not in that room anymore. I'm on the living room floor, and the paramedics are now working on me diligently with all their tools and their equipment. And they're talking to one another, and they're like, we have to get the truck. We have to get the truck. They're talking about the ambulance. We have to get him in right away, meaning they have to take me to the hospital right away. And I'm like, I feel great. And I'm like, guys, listen, I feel fantastic. I've never felt better. Don't worry about me. I'm good. And they're like, you're not good. You don't realize it, but you are not good. And you have to come to the hospital. And I'm like, but did you see the light? Did you hear the voice? Wasn't that awesome? And now they're looking at me like I'm crazy or insane. I stepped into the afterlife an atheist, and I returned a believer. And I'm here to tell you that the NDE is very, very real. I continue to live my life in a manner that was very self-destructive, because here I am, I'm 20 years old, and I don't fear death. Those that are very religious, when they have an NDE, they sort of see it in the way that they were taught what is supposed to be this and what is supposed to be that, according to religion. And listen, they may be right, but what I see from the combination of science and the NDE having a different perspective, I look for things outside the box. Now, I wouldn't say that God doesn't exist, but I would say that he is something different than the way religion is describing it, right? I would say that God is more of a collective consciousness, like Carl Jung described it, and that we are all connected to that entity. And even Jesus, who I believe walked the earth and was an amazing human being, told us God is within you and you are a part of God. So what he's saying is that exact fact, that we are a part of that entity and that entity is a part of us. What Jesus never ever said was that he was the only son of God. In fact, he said we were all sons of God. So if we're all a part of the entity, then the entity, if you wish to call it God or the universe or the collective, choose your word, we're all a part of it. And if we're all a part of it, we're all equal. There isn't one person that's above another person. We're all connected to that energetic entity, and we're all creators of the universe collectively. And that just makes more sense to me than one singular higher power making decisions on behalf of everyone. Because if that were the case, we could do away with a lot of the terrible things that are happening. And the reason we don't is because we're collective. We're collective consciousness. And some people are bad people, and they are a part of that collective consciousness. And until more people are good and less are bad, and the balance, the tipping point starts to go the other way, that entity doesn't know which way to go because it's made up of us. If we all come from one entity, and the best analogy that I've heard for why people do what they do, if you look at, this was from Eckhart Tolle, who said this. He was asked, why is there evil in the world if we all come from a place of love? And he explained it this way. Imagine that the sun is God, or the universal collective, that oneness, that love that we're all coming from. And the sun makes sure that everything on planet Earth continues to live by sending it energy. So that energy comes to the earth and it's turned into living things, and it keeps living things alive, right? However, when that energy enters another being, what that being chooses to do with that energy, you can't blame the sun for it. So if the sun is what makes me alive, but yet I do something negative with the energy I was given, it's not the sun's fault, it's my fault. I decided to do that with the energy because, like I explained, we are all creators. We are all part of the creation of this universe. We are all one with God. We are all one with the collective. So we're individuals in the sense that we accept this energy. It creates who we are and what we are, but then what we do with it is entirely up to us. The way I understand it is even the worst of the worst people, when they return, they are shown their lives and they are shown what they did right and wrong. I do not think there is a good place and a bad place. I don't think there's a heaven and hell. I think that when you cross over, you see the things that you have done wrong and you become all knowing and you understand why you did those things.